Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be splitting my time with the member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley. So I rise today on a very serious issue, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We know that Russia's attack is the most serious threat to the rules-based international order since the Second World War. Since 1945, Madam Speaker, we have not faced something like this. And it really threatens the longest period of relative peace and prosperity in modern history, and as a consequence, of course, threatens the security that Canada depends. And I think all Canadians have seen in the last number of weeks, or days actually, the horrific footage on the ground from Ukraine. We know that there's 1 million Canadians that share direct routes to Ukraine. They have millions of loved ones and friends and family that are on the ground witnessing these horrors. The casualties are mounting, and it is a growing concern for all Canadians. I too actually share heritage from that area of the world dating back 5 generations, so this hits very close to home. And just a few days ago, actually, I saw an image that just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a young woman about my age. She's an opposition member of parliament, much like me, in the Ukrainian parliament. And she's a new MP as well. And I saw a photo of her that she posted where she was holding a firearm. And she explained that just a few days ago, in essence, she was a normal legislator, just going about her job, much like me. And then within days, she's learning how to use firearms to defend her nation's security, to defend her people. And so to see someone that I relate to on so many levels showing that kind of courage, you know, it kind of makes you emotional. It hits really close to home. I hope that if I'm ever faced with that kind of horror, that I have half the courage that MP Kira Rudik, that's her name, from Ukraine, and the people of Ukraine have shown in the last couple of days. The resolve they've shown, the determination to protect their country and their sovereignty. It's one of the most incredible things I think I'll ever witness in my time in Parliament. So I applaud them for their bravery and their courage, Madam Speaker. And, you know, actually I'll conclude about Kira with something she said recently. She said, "We will now have a generation of children who will know what war is." If that doesn't hit close to home, Madam Speaker, I don't know what does. And the Conservatives, we very much appreciate the efforts from the Liberal government in recent days. We do wish that they would have equipped Ukraine with military tools far sooner, but we're very happy to see the efforts they're taking now. And we have a number of things that we've proposed that could be taken immediately to support Ukraine, and also things that we need to seriously be talking about in this House and across the country to ensure not only the sovereignty of Ukraine and of Europe, but also Canada here at home. And so in the immediate term, we've called on the government to declare the ambassador to Canada from Russia persona non grata. So it's time to kick him out of Canada, Madam Speaker. And it's time to recall our ambassador from Russia. That's something we can do immediately. That's something we can do today. We've also asked the government to ensure they are banning all Russian propaganda from our airways. And I do believe that this is starting to happen as well. That's great to see, but it needs to happen quicker. And again, needs to happen now. There's no place for Russian propaganda on Canadian airways. We also need to, you know, with Russia's actions, they have no right to be on international organizations like the G20, for example, or the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It's time to kick them off that. They have no right to be on those international organizations, Madam Speaker. And also, to support the Ukrainian people immediately, we can see the government implement a visa-free travel regime so we can bring Ukrainians to safety as soon as possible. I have many constituents in my riding who have family there. We need to bring them to safety. And then the last two things, and I hope to continue some of this in my question and answer period, but we've proposed that the government must take very seriously and bring forward a plan to focus on Arctic sovereignty and security. Remember, we share a very, very long Arctic border with Russia. We are one of the largest land masses in the world, and most of it is the Arctic. Russia has 40 nuclear-powered icebreakers that are equipped with torpedoes. Do you want to know how many Canada has, Madam Speaker? 0. We have 0. There are serious investments that need to be made, and I'll look forward to concluding my remarks in the question period. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Vancouver East. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank you to the member for her speech. One of the issues that I'm very cognizant of is, of course, the variety of measures that the Canadian government needs to put in place to support Ukrainians. And with respect to immigration, the government has announced that some effort is being made. However, we also just learned that the government is not putting additional resources to support that work within IRCC. If we don't put additional resources into it, I fear that the backlog within IRCC in other streams will just escalate, as we have seen. So what is the members' thoughts with respect to the government needing to put additional resources to support immigration measures to support the people of Ukraine?
Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
I thank the member for the question. We work together in Immigration Committee, and I very much support seeing the government put more resources into ensuring we have a visa-free regime, that we can bring Ukrainians to Canada, be reunited with their family, to be reunited with Canadians, to bring them to safety. That's something we can move forward with immediately. The government has the resources. They can put that in place in the coming days. Another thing that we can do to support Ukraine and all of Europe is to ensure our pipeline capacity takes Canadian gas to Tidewater, so we can offset Europeans' dependence on Russia for gas. They depend 40% of European gas is dependent on Russia right now. So what does that do to countries in Europe that are looking to support Ukraine? Well, they're in a vice grip from Russia because of the energy that they provide those European countries. So we can easily offset that by getting our resources to Tidewater and supporting the security of energy to our European allies, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The honourable member for Dundas. Oh, sorry, I'm going to blow it here. The honourable member for Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry, yes.
Not a problem, Madam Speaker. It's a long-riding title. I don't blame you. Thank you for recognizing me, to my colleague for her speech. Well done, as always. And she was referencing in her previous intervention there, talking about the economic pressures that we can put on Ukraine. We've seen that from the global community the last couple of days, and I believe in the coming days we're going to see even more pressure and more success through that. I'd just like my colleague to take the opportunity to talk about some of the economic measures been done to date, but elaborate further of where Russia for years has used their energy sector as a war machine, funding their war machine. How can we stop that? How can we send a message and set that precedence that we're not going to accept it in a global community?
Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
I'd like to thank the member for the question. Thank you very much. Well, one of the things we can do immediately is move to remove Russia from the G20, from other international organizations, that they have no place, having violated the international order. They have no place on those international bodies. Again, I mentioned that we can expand our pipeline capacity to ensure we're offsetting the European dependence on Russian gas. We have gas. If only we can get it to Tidewater to get it to Europe. This is something that we should be hearing today from this government that they're silent on, as far as I'm aware. I'd like to hear more from them on that. But another thing that I'd really like to bring into this is that recently, Russia really, as we know, is a nuclear superpower, and it recently has raised the level of its own level of nuclear readiness, So it is critical that we hold President Putin and the Russian government accountable for this gross violation of Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. But also at the same time, we need to ensure we are avoiding at all costs any escalation or accident between nuclear superpowers. That is paramount, Madam Speaker.
Excellent. Time for a brief question. Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Sandwich Gulf Islands.
Speaker, and to my honourable colleague, I'm going to leave aside the wisdom of wanting to send natural gas or any other fossil fuels to Europe, but ask if, on reflection, anything can be done quickly, given that with all the supports in the world, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which was originally booked for a $4.5 billion cost, is now estimated to be a $21.4 billion cost and will be years behind schedule. It's not a viable solution, is it? I ask the honourable member through you, Madam Speaker.
Answer from the member for Kildonan St. Paul.
You know what I think is not viable is having Europe dependent on Russian gas. Having our country's own sovereignty and security at the whim of 40 nuclear-powered, weaponized icebreakers. I don't really care about the cost. We need to ensure that security of Canada is first and foremost the priority of this federal government, Madam Speaker.